Hello friends, welcome to my channel again. I am Vijay Lohar here. Today in this session we will talk about VLAN Trunking Protocol or VTP. So let's proceed with the topic. First of all, what is trunking or trunk link? Basically the term trunk link comes from the traditional telephone line where the multiple voice traffic carried over by a single media. But what is the use of trunk link in our switch network? As I assume that now we are very familiar with VLAN. To understand VLAN trunking, let's assume a scenario of network that we are working with an educational organization which is having different department, and to manage those departments we have to configure VLAN in our switch. As you can see here, we have head office and there are the department, finance department, management department and classroom, and they are using different network address like 192.168.10.0/24 is for the finance department, 192.168.20.0/24 is for the management, and 192.168.30.0/24 is for the classroom. And we have to configure VLAN in this switch, and that is not a tough job because we already know how to configure VLAN. But let's make the scenario a little broader. Like, what if our organization is having some more division in nearby area or in same building? As you can see here, I have already added two division like division 1 and division 2, and both division will have the same department as in our head office. As you can see here, we required finance department here, management department and classroom, and so on for the division 2, finance department, management department and classroom. How to configure this setup? So you have to configure your network so that each department of each division must be connect and communicate with each other, but they will not be able to access resource from other department. So how to do that? The manual method will be configuring VLAN on each switch manually and further connect each VLAN with a separate cable, but that will be not a practical solution because it will consume lots of physical interface and wire. So here is the situation where VLAN trunking comes in. So VLAN trunking allows us to send multiple VLAN traffic within a single media, and this is the first approach of trunking or trunk link. Whenever VLAN traffic moves through trunk link from one switch to another switch, trunking protocol will insert a VLAN tag with the frame to identify which frame belongs to which VLAN, and finally that will be delivered to the same VLAN in next switch. And the second approach of VLAN trunking is for managing VLAN centrally. So instead of configuring VLAN on each switch one by one, we will manage the VLAN from a centralized switch. So let's see how to configure VLAN trunking. Cisco originally invented its own trunking protocol as ISL, that is inter-switch link, but for the CCNA approach, we will configure VLAN trunking by 802.1q of IEEE standard. So whenever we enable VTP in our switch, it operates in three different modes. Like if we configure our switch as a VTP server, that is the first mode, VTP server mode. If we configure our switch as a VTP server, our server switch will be able to create, modify or delete VLAN, as well as it will advertise the VLAN information for other switch. And if we configure our switch as a VTP client, this is the second mode, that is VTP client mode. If we configure our switch as a VTP client, our switch will not be able to create, modify or delete VLAN, but it will propagate with the VLAN server or VTP server and sync VLAN information with its own database. So we are not going to create VLAN manually, but we will configure VLAN in our VTP server, and that will be automatically synced with the client mode VTP switch. And the third one is the VTP transparent mode. If we configure a switch in the transparent mode, it will not sync or update VLAN information from the server, but it will pass VLAN traffic from itself. As well as the transparent mode switch can create, modify or delete its own VLAN. So let's proceed with the practical. First of all, we are going to configure this switch as a VTP server. I have already given some task here we have to do, that is we have to configure VLAN and then we'll configure BTP server, and finally we will enable a link or an interface for the trunk. Okay, so proceed. This is a newly added switch, so there is nothing has configured right now. What we have to do here is verify all the configuration we have to configure in the session, like we have to verify the VLAN first. Enable, configure terminal, configure terminal. Okay, I'm going to set host name as server, whatever name you can use. Okay, now I'm going to verify the VLAN first, as we have to configure it. So Vlan Brief, and there is only default VLAN are there, that is VLAN 1, that is the default VLAN, and by default all the ports are assigned to VLAN 1, and these are also the default VLAN. So we have to configure our VLAN as finance, management and classroom. So VLAN 2, name for VLAN 2 will be finance. Okay, now I'm creating VLAN 3 with the name management. Okay, and again VLAN 4 with the name classroom. So I have created VLAN. Now verify the VLAN. Yes, we have added 3 more VLAN. Now the next thing we have to do here is we have to assign port for this VLAN. As you can see here, I have already given interface number of switch for the VLAN, like finance department's computer will use 1, 2 and 3 number of port of this switch, and 9, 10 and 11 is used by management department, and so on for 17, 18 and 19 for the classroom. So let's proceed for assigning port for the VLAN interface. I'm not assigning port one by one, but I will use command interface range fast Ethernet 0 by 1 to 8. Be careful about the interface. I'm assigning 8 number of port, and I'll use command switch port mode access and switch port access VLAN 2. So first 8 port I have assigned to VLAN 2, and now I'll assign port number 9 to 16, switch port mode access, switch port mode switch port access VLAN 3. Now from port number 17 to 20, which is connected with classroom, switch port mode access, okay, and switch port access VLAN 4, exit. So VLAN brief. Okay, so we have assigned port number for is VLAN. Now what next we have to do here is we have to configure BTP or BTP server. So first of all, verify what are the default configuration for your BTP. So BTP status, remember this command, this is the important one. As you can see here, the result of your show BTP status command, that we are using BTP version 2, configuration revision version is 6. Whenever you are going to configure your VLAN database, it will be changed, and maximum VLAN supported locally is 255, and number of existing VLAN is 8. As you can see here, we have 8 VLAN, and by default our switch is in server mode, and there is no domain name. And one another thing is important, that is BTP pruning. This is the term used for eliminating your unwanted VLAN traffic from your network, and so on. So we have to configure these things, like we have to configure our switch as a server, and we'll have to define the domain name for the BTP. So configure terminal, BTP mode will be server. I don't need to execute this command because we are already in server mode. So what I have to do, as you can see here, I have some message like device mode already VTP server. Okay, So next thing I have to do here is VTP domain will be study. It's a case sensitive name, whatever name we assign, remember that. Okay, so your domain name is now study. If you verify now, so VTP status, you can see that you are in server mode and your domain name is study. So we have configured our switch as a VTP server or VTP domain. Now what next I have to do here is we'll have to enable an interface for the trunk. So I'll connect a trunk. I'm using port number 24, which is not part of any VLAN here, and with the port number 24 of next switch. So I'll enable this interface for the trunk link. This one is fast Ethernet 0x24. Okay. So interface trunk, it will verify which interface are enabled for the trunk, and there is no result, it means there is no trunk link at all. So what we have to do here is configure terminal interface fast Ethernet 0x24, which is connected with the client switch, and I have to enable trunk link for this interface. Then I'll use command switch port mode trunk. Okay. In some model of switches, you may require to execute commands switch port trunk encapsulation.1q, but in our model we do not require any further command. So exit from this interface, and now if we verify show interface trunk, we can see which interface is enabled for the trunking. And now fast Ethernet 0x24 mode is on, and 802.1q encapsulation method is enabled for trunking. Okay, so we have configured all the things for the server, and now we are going to configure our client. So what we have to do in our client, we have to configure VTP client, and we'll configure the trunk link, and further we'll verify the connectivity. So first of all, I'm going to configure this switch as a VTP client. Enable so VTP status. As you can see here, even this switch is in server mode and there is no domain name. So I have to assign these things here. Configure terminal, host name is client1, whatever name you can use here. And now VTP mode will be client. Okay, and VTP domain name will be study. It will be the same name we have assigned in our server. Exit, exit. And now if we verify so VTP status, we'll see that now we are in client mode and our domain name is study. Okay, so we have configured our switch as a VTP client. Now we have to enable our interface, which is connected for the trunk link, that is port number 24. So what I'm going to do here is configure terminal interface fast Ethernet 0x24 and switch port mode trunk. Okay, exit, exit. Now verify your trunk link. So VTP so interface trunk, and as you can see here, your 24 number port of client switch is enabled for the trunking using 802.1q protocol. Okay, and now the most important one, and that is show VLAN brief. We haven't configured any VLAN here, but now if I execute the command show VLAN brief here, we can see we have finance VLAN, management VLAN and classroom VLAN, which we have created in our VTP server. So the configuration of VTP server, VLAN configuration of VTP server is syncing with our client and it's working. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign port for this VLAN like we have done in our server. So interface fast Ethernet, sorry, I'll use range command. Interface range fast Ethernet 0x1 to 8 will be in switch port mode access and switch port access VLAN 2. Again 9 to 16 will be in switch port mode access, and it will be in VLAN 3. Again, switch port number 17 to 20 will be in switch port mode access and VLAN 4. Now let's verify the communication. Port is still initializing, so wait for some time. Okay, our finance department interface is ready now, so I can verify the connectivity. I have already assigned IP address for the computer, like you can see here, 10.2, and this computer is using 10.100. So they must be connecting with each other. 192.168.10.2. This is the IP address of this computer. I am trying to access from this one. Yes, we are getting reply. It means our VLAN is sending information through this trunk link, and that is delivering to this VLAN. Okay, if you want to verify from some other computer, you can verify it. This one is 20.network computer, so I'm going to connect and communicate with this one. Let's verify. Ping 192.168.20.2, and we are getting reply, and even this will reply us. Ping 192.168.30.2 is the computer from classroom. Yes, we are connected now, and these are working properly. So let's see the next one, that is BTP transparent mode. As we discussed earlier, that if we configure our switch as a transparent mode switch, this switch will not sync VLAN information or VLAN database from server, but it will pass your VLAN traffic through the interface. But it can configure VLAN, can modify VLAN, and can delete VLAN of its own database. So let's configure the transparent mode switch. First of all, I'm going to connect this one. So I'm using 23 number port, which is not part of any this VLAN, with 23 number port of our transparent mode switch. And again, I'm going to connect port number 24 of transparent mode switch to port number 24 of our division 2 switch, which will be the client switch again. So let's configure this one. First of all, I am going to assign this interface as a trunk link, port number 23, which is connected with the server. So I'll configure terminal interface fast Ethernet 0 by 23, and it will be switch port mode trunk. Okay, so I have enabled port number 23, which is connected with transparent mode switch with trunk protocol, and now I have to configure this switch as a transparent mode switch and have to enable port number 23 and 24 as a trunk link. So what I have to do here is enable so VLAN brief. You can see there is no VLAN right now. Configure terminal, host name will be trans, whatever name you can use here. And now what I am going to do here is VTP mode. If you want to verify the mode right now, so VTP status, it's server mode and there is no domain, so I am going to assign configure terminal VTP mode transparent. Okay, nothing else I have to do here. Now I have to enable both interface, that is port number 23 and port number 24 for the trunk. Configure terminal interface fast Ethernet 0 by 23 and 24. Okay, I am enabling, sorry, interface range, it must be 10 interface range fast Ethernet 0 by 23 and 24. Okay, now I am going to use command switch port mode trunk. Okay, exit. Now if I verify, so VLAN brief I'm not updating any VLAN, as well as I can create VLAN here, VLAN 2 name local. As you can see here, I'm able to create VLAN in our transparent mode switch, but if I try to configure VLAN in our client switch, VLAN 100, as you can see here, we are unable to create VLAN in client switch, but transparent mode switch can create its own VLAN. So we have configured this switch as a VTP transparent mode switch, and we have enabled trunk link for 23 and 24 number port, and now we have to configure this switch as a VTP client again. Let's see if your transparent mode switch is passing your VTP traffic. Configure terminal, host name is client 2, and now I'm going to define VTP mode will be client, VTP domain will be study. Okay, and now I have to assign trunking protocol for the interface number 24. This must be 24 number port. Okay, so interface, configure terminal, interface fast Ethernet 0x24 will be switch port mode trunk, exit. So VTP status, it's client now, and the study is the domain name. So Vlan Brief, now verify it. As you can see here, we have newly VLAN created in this switch by syncing with VLAN server or BTP server. So this switch is not going to update its own VLAN database, so VLAN Brief, but it's passing VLAN traffic through the interface, and this is your VLAN trunking protocol. I hope you like this video. If so, please do subscribe with our channel. Till next video, bye bye.